The most powerful move you'll ever make is the one nobody sees coming. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes your greatest weapon. Most people talk themselves out of progress. They announce their goals, explain their dreams, seek applause before they've earned it. But talking doesn't build anything. It only simulates effort and kills urgency. The work that changes your life is done quietly, when you commit without witnesses and let results speak for you. This audiobook is about that discipline, the art of shutting out distraction and executing in silence. You don't need to tell anyone what you're doing. You don't need validation, permission, or consensus. You need focus that doesn't depend on motivation and standards that don't move when your mood does. Every moment you exchange action for attention, you trade your future for comfort. Silence removes the counterfeit rewards of attention. It turns your energy inward, into precision, not performance. You stop performing progress and start producing it. You stop chasing approval and start building credibility. You are not obligated to explain why you're working late, why you're saying no, or why you're different. Your life is not a public story. It's a private project. Respect your ambition enough to protect it. This is not secrecy. It's strategy. The strongest leaders move quietly and speak only when it multiplies impact. You will learn to do the same, to measure success by promises kept to yourself, not reactions from others. Make the quiet decision now. Trade exposure for execution, validation for results. Build in the dark. Win in public. And when people finally ask how you did it, you won't need to say a word. Before we begin, if you're done waiting for motivation to find you, hit like. Not for me, for you. And subscribe only if you're serious about building the version you keep talking about. Chapter 1. Close your mouth and get serious about your life. Everything changes the day you stop explaining yourself. Not the day you buy a planner, not the day you post your goals online, the day you decide that your life deserves your full respect. That's when the shift happens. Because until that moment, you're negotiating with mediocrity. You're waiting for motivation or permission or perfect timing. But the truth is simple. No one is coming to push you. The responsibility to move belongs to you. Talking about change is the most comfortable form of delay. It keeps you feeling active while you're standing still. It gives your brain a small hit of dopamine, a false signal that you've accomplished something. That's why people love to announce plans and talk about future goals. The conversation itself feels like momentum. But talking about the work isn't the same as doing the work. You can't build muscle by describing a workout. You can't earn respect by predicting results. Progress begins the moment you go silent and start moving. Silence is not weakness. It's commitment without applause. It's the point where you stop performing and start producing. When you choose silence, you're training your focus. You're protecting the energy that most people waste proving they're serious. You stop needing others to see your effort. You learn to find satisfaction in the process itself. The mature version of you doesn't need to announce growth. You measure it privately. Getting serious about your life starts with one question. What am I tolerating that keeps me average? Maybe it's the people who drain you. Maybe it's the excuses that sound reasonable but keep you stuck. Maybe it's your own internal narrative, the voice that says, tomorrow. Every time you repeat that lie, you reinforce a weaker version of yourself. Getting serious means ending negotiations with delay. It means acting on what you already know. Seriousness is not aggression, it's precision. It's saying no to everything that doesn't serve your focus. It's choosing depth over noise. The serious person doesn't move faster, they move cleaner. They make fewer decisions, but execute all of them with weight. They don't waste their breath defending their intentions. They let their outcomes do the talking. Look at how most people move through life. They post their plans, broadcast their goals, share half-built projects. They confuse exposure with execution. They feel busy, but they're not building anything solid. Their attention is fragmented, and fragmented attention cannot build mastery. Talking about a dream releases the same chemicals as progress, which is why people mistake conversation for movement. Silence removes that illusion. When you go quiet, you face the truth. You're either improving or pretending. When you stop explaining, something strange happens. People start underestimating you. Let them. That underestimation is a gift. It gives you the advantage of surprise. It gives you the peace to focus. You don't need to convince anyone that you're serious. Your results will make the argument for you. The most powerful people you'll ever meet aren't loud. They're consistent. Their confidence doesn't need a witness. If you're tired of being stuck, stop broadcasting your frustration. The world doesn't owe you sympathy. The universe doesn't respond to noise. It responds to energy. The energy you waste defending yourself could have been used building yourself. Redirect it. Every hour spent explaining your intent is an hour not spent executing it. The person you could become is waiting on you to stop talking about it. You don't need a grand start. You need a real one. Wake up tomorrow and make it impossible to avoid yourself. Keep your promises in private. Make your bed. Train your body. Read your notes. Pay attention to what drains you and eliminate it. The pattern of seriousness begins in small, invisible choices. No one will see it yet, and that's the point. Every day you follow through without attention, you build quiet credibility. You start trusting your own word again. That trust becomes momentum. Remember this: the people who talk about improvement crave attention. The people who live improvement crave progress. If you want a life that commands respect, earn it quietly. If you want to stop being underestimated, stop announcing and start executing. The future you imagine doesn't require a speech. It requires a system. So close your mouth. Clean your focus. Cut the noise. Your reputation will be built in silence long before the world notices. You won't need to explain how it happened. You'll only need to keep showing up. Because in time, the results will speak with a volume no words could match. Chapter 2. Work quietly on your goals every single day. This is where the transformation begins, not in a single burst of motivation, but in the repetition of invisible effort. You don't become great through inspiration. You become great through rhythm. Through the quiet repetition of the right actions, done so many times that the world has no choice but to notice. The modern world is allergic to patience. Everyone wants to be seen improving instead of actually improving. They want to broadcast their grind before they've earned it. They want results before they've built foundations. But progress does not come from performance. It comes from consistency. Every day you show up, even when nobody's watching, you're reinforcing a truth: that you can trust yourself. And that self-trust is what turns goals into reality. Discipline doesn't ask if you feel ready. It doesn't care about your mood, your convenience, or your audience. Discipline shows up. It repeats. It builds silently, layer upon layer, until the habit becomes identity. When you work quietly, you remove the addiction to applause. You stop chasing dopamine from validation and start creating momentum from completion. Each finished task, each fulfilled promise, strengthens the architecture of your confidence. You can't outsource this. You can't post your way to progress. You have to build the muscle of doing, the one that grows only when you act without reward. People who win understand this simple principle. Effort compounds in silence. 1 hour of deep, focused work every day equals more than 300 hours a year. That's enough to master a skill, start a business, or reshape your body. But only if you stop skipping the days that don't feel exciting. Most people fail because they overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. They chase novelty, not mastery. They change directions every time it gets boring. But boredom is not failure. It's proof you've entered the stage where growth happens. When something stops feeling new, that's when it starts becoming real. Repetition is the forge of mastery. There's a reason the quiet achievers seem calm. They don't waste energy proving effort. They conserve it for precision. They've learned that noise consumes focus, and focus is fuel. You can't afford to leak it. Your goal is not to look productive. It's to become undeniable. Every day that you show up without needing an audience, you sharpen your discipline. Working quietly doesn't mean working without vision. It means aligning your effort with purpose, not pressure. It means understanding what matters today and executing it without ceremony. Write it down. Break it small. Then complete it. Do that again tomorrow. This is how greatness is built. Not by the grand act, but by the daily micro-victories that compound behind closed doors. Stop waiting for motivation to arrive. Motivation is emotional weather, inconsistent and unreliable. Discipline is architecture. When you build a routine strong enough, it doesn't matter if you wake up inspired. The structure carries you. Every time you follow your schedule instead of your feelings, you're teaching your mind who's in control. The disciplined version of you becomes the leader. The emotional version becomes the passenger. And yes, it will feel lonely. The quiet phase always does. You'll have days when nobody believes in you, when progress feels invisible, when effort feels endless. But these are the hours that shape you. Nobody claps during construction. The cheering comes after the building stands. Trust that every silent repetition is forming something permanent inside you. Endurance, confidence, identity. The ones who last are not the loudest. They're the most consistent. They don't chase intensity. They master sustainability. Their mornings look similar. Their habits feel familiar. And yet, over time, the gap between them and the rest widens into something irreversible. Because while others stop to talk about what they'll do, these few keep doing it. So make this your new pattern. Show up, execute, repeat. Don't broadcast it. Don't explain it. Don't wait for approval. Let each day's effort be your message. Let your silence become your brand. In a world obsessed with noise, quiet consistency will always look mysterious until it becomes unstoppable. Chapter 3. Stop proving and start doing what really matters. Most people spend their whole lives trying to be understood. They explain, defend, justify, hoping the world will finally see how serious they are. But here's the truth. When you're busy proving, you're not improving. Every ounce of energy you spend convincing others could have been used becoming better. The obsession with being understood is a form of emotional debt. You owe people explanations because you've given them too much access to your process. You've mistaken visibility for value. You've confused validation with progress. But growth doesn't need witnesses. Real transformation doesn't come with an audience. It comes with a decision. When you stop proving, you reclaim your focus. You start directing your time toward what actually moves your life forward: your habits, your discipline, your craft, your internal dialogue. You start measuring progress not by how people react, but by how you evolve. That's where maturity begins. There's a dangerous comfort in being seen trying. It feels noble. It earns sympathy. You get to look like you're fighting, even when you're not changing. But trying is a disguise that keeps you stuck at the starting line. The world doesn't pay for your effort. It rewards your execution. No one will remember how hard you said it was. They'll remember what you built despite it. Proving yourself is a trap built from insecurity. You talk because you fear being overlooked. You defend because you doubt your own conviction. But the more you talk about your worth, the less you live it. Power doesn't beg to be seen. It shows itself through results. The moment you realize you don't owe anyone proof of your seriousness, your entire energy changes. You stop being reactive. You stop chasing applause. You start choosing alignment. When you stop proving, you start producing, and production is freedom. You can finally move with precision because your actions are no longer distorted by approval. You stop caring who agrees with your vision and focus entirely on executing it. That's what separates leaders from talkers. Clarity of intent without the need for external confirmation. The next time you feel the urge to defend your decisions, pause. Ask yourself, will this explanation move me forward? 99% of the time, it won't. The people who get it don't need convincing. The ones who don't will never believe enough to make a difference. Silence ends the argument. Results finish it. Doing what matters will rarely look impressive. It looks like sacrifice. It looks like saying no to distractions, no to parties, no to comfort. It looks like going home early to read, to train, to plan, to sleep. It looks like turning your back on popularity for a while so you can face progress fully. This is what real dedication costs: the temporary loss of applause for the permanent gain of mastery. When you stop proving, you start hearing yourself again. You begin to notice which actions actually create results and which just create noise. You begin to respect your own time. You become deliberate. Not busy, not loud, deliberate. You replace explaining with executing. You replace defending with doing. And eventually, your silence becomes louder than any argument you could make. People will start to notice you didn't just talk about change. You embodied it. They'll see the results, the discipline, the clarity. But by then, you won't need their validation. You'll already know what you've built. So stop proving and start producing. Let your focus become your defense. Let your improvement speak on your behalf. You don't need to win every conversation. You need to win your days. And the day you finally choose progress over performance, that's the day you stop being ordinary. Chapter 4. Build your habits without telling anyone about them. Habits are the invisible architecture of your future. They are the quiet lines in the blueprint of your life. Drawn in private, executed in silence, revealed only through time. Every successful person you admire is standing on a foundation no one saw being built. That's what makes it powerful. Because what's hidden cannot be interfered with. Most people destroy their momentum by announcing it too early. The moment you tell others what you're doing, you trigger a chemical trap in your brain. Dopamine. It feels like achievement, but it's imitation. You get a premature sense of pride, and the drive to follow through fades. You've already been rewarded by attention, not by progress. That's why so many people talk about discipline, but never live it. Their motivation dies in public. Keep your rituals private. Wake up early without posting about it. Read in silence. Train your body when no one's keeping score. Save money without sharing screenshots. Build habits so quietly that by the time people notice, it's already who you are. When you make growth public, you make it fragile. The opinions, questions, and expectations of others start shaping your pace. You begin to move for applause, not for mastery. But when you keep your process sacred, you're free. You can fail, adjust, restart, and evolve without shame. You own your progress because it belongs only to you. Private work creates real identity. Every repetition done in solitude strengthens self-trust. Every time you show up without being watched, you tell your subconscious, I keep my word even when it's invisible. That's how discipline transforms into identity. You stop trying to be consistent and start becoming someone who simply is. Understand this. You don't need to talk about your routine for it to matter. Silence protects momentum. It shields you from premature celebration and external pressure. When no one knows what you're building, no one can interrupt it. Your silence becomes a strategy, a personal firewall around your focus. There's a deeper psychology behind this. When you externalize your intentions, you attach your growth to feedback. When you internalize your habits, you attach it to integrity. The first makes you dependent. The second makes you powerful. Public declarations are fragile. Private systems are bulletproof. That's why elite performers, thinkers, and creators all share one trait: discretion. They speak rarely and act relentlessly. They're not mysterious for effect. They're focused by design. They don't need the world to notice their improvement. The work itself is enough proof. At first, people may not understand why you've gone quiet. They'll assume you've lost interest or momentum. Let them. Their assumptions are your protection. Growth demands isolation. Every minute you spend explaining your progress is a minute stolen from continuing it. You are not obligated to update anyone about your evolution. You're obligated to complete it. When you build habits privately, you also build peace. You no longer perform consistency for others. You no longer need an audience to stay accountable. Your accountability becomes internal, and that's when it sticks. You wake up and follow through not because someone expects it, but because it feels unnatural not to. You've hardwired your standard. And here's the secret nobody tells you. Silence amplifies results. When you're not talking, all that energy goes back into doing. When you're not explaining, your brain stays focused on execution. And when you're not showing off, your motivation matures into something stronger, purpose. So keep it to yourself. Let your habits harden into identity behind closed doors. Let your silence incubate strength. Let the results surprise them later. Because when they finally ask what changed, you won't need to tell them. They'll see it in your discipline, your body, your peace, your precision, and you'll simply smile because you'll know the truth. It was built in silence, and that's why it lasted. Chapter 5. Take action daily and say nothing about it. Every day gives you the same invitation: do or delay. And each day, most people choose delay, disguised as preparation. They make lists, they talk plans, they get ready, but they don't move. Action, not intention, separates the dreamers from the builders. The ones who quietly act daily may not look dramatic, but they're the ones whose lives shift the fastest. Because they've learned a truth that the loud never understand. Consistency beats intensity. The world glorifies performance. People want to look productive, not be productive. They post about grinding, romanticize exhaustion, and mistake exposure for effort. But results don't respond to declarations. They respond to discipline. You cannot tweet your way to transformation. You must earn it through movement repeated so many times it becomes invisible. Because by then, it's automatic. Taking action daily means committing to progress that nobody celebrates. It means doing what matters even when no one acknowledges it. It's the quiet hours of deep work, the small daily habits, the one more page read, the one more rep done when your body says stop. It's building a fortress out of tiny victories that stack quietly until they become unstoppable momentum. Stop thinking in bursts. Start thinking in streaks. Every single day, one deliberate action. Not a dramatic leap, a deliberate inch. Because inches stack into miles faster than you realize. The person who moves 1 inch daily ends up further than the one who sprints for a week and collapses for a month. Daily action also trains your mind to detach from mood. When you work only when you feel like it, you stay emotional. When you work because it's who you are, you become disciplined. Discipline is not emotionless. It's emotionally mature. It's the ability to say, I don't feel like it, but I will anyway. Every time you act through resistance, you rewrite your self-image. You stop identifying as someone who waits. You become someone who executes. And you don't need to say a word about it. Let silence be your accountability. The best kind of accountability is not external. It's the quiet guilt you feel when you break your word to yourself. No crowd can create that kind of honesty. No applause can replace that kind of integrity. Your job is not to convince anyone that you're consistent. It's to be consistent even when they're not watching. Every time you show up without needing attention, you reclaim power from distraction. You build what I call invisible credibility, the strength that only you can feel because it's built only by you. You'll notice something remarkable when you do this long enough. Your results start compounding without you realizing. You'll look back in a month and see you're sharper. In a year, unrecognizable. All because you acted instead of announced. Because you did when others debated. Because you moved when others waited. There's an elegance in restraint, in not needing to speak about what you're building. It makes your energy heavier, more magnetic. People start noticing the difference in your presence, not your posts. That's real power. Not being seen talking, but being felt improving. Remember, noise burns time. Words are easy, but action is permanent. When you take action daily and say nothing, you give your work room to mature without interference. You let growth happen naturally, like roots under soil, unseen but unstoppable. And one day, when it breaks through the surface, it looks effortless. But you'll know the truth. It was built one silent day at a time. So keep showing up. Keep executing. Keep your progress sacred. Don't narrate your movement. Live it. Don't prove you're working. Be the work. And when people wonder where you've been, you'll smile. Because while they were talking, you were transforming. Chapter 6. Improve yourself in silence and trust your pace. The modern world will try to convince you that you're behind, that you need to catch up, go faster, achieve sooner, and match timelines that were never meant for you. But growth is not a race. It's an unfolding. Every person moves at a different rhythm, and the sooner you learn to trust yours, the faster your peace returns. Improvement that lasts never happens in a rush. It happens in quiet, consistent adjustments, in patience, not panic. You're not supposed to bloom at the same time as everyone else. You're supposed to evolve at the speed of readiness, not pressure. The moment you stop comparing your progress, your focus multiplies. Because comparison divides your energy, half goes to envy, half to anxiety, and none to execution. You don't need to show anyone that you're improving. Let your silence be your growth strategy. The loud ones are usually compensating. The silent ones are calibrating. They're too busy doing the work to narrate it. They're too focused on becoming to waste time convincing. And when their moment arrives, they don't have to announce it. They embody it. Trusting your pace doesn't mean moving slowly. It means moving deliberately. It means understanding that momentum built too quickly often collapses just as fast. Think of a tree. It spends years growing roots before anyone sees its height. That's what you're doing in your quiet phase, developing structure. Every routine, every repetition, every hour of self-work is a root going deeper. And roots don't get applause, they get stability. Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. Sometimes the best work you can do is invisible. Internal rewiring, healing, planning, reframing. The people rushing past you may seem ahead, but speed without depth collapses under pressure. Patience builds resilience. You're not late. You're layering. You're strengthening what they'll eventually wish they hadn't skipped. Improving in silence also means you're free to fail privately. You don't owe anyone explanations when things don't go as planned. You don't need to perform recovery for an audience. Growth that's quiet has room to experiment, to iterate, to start again. And every restart refines your process. You stop obsessing over perfection and start valuing momentum. Because perfect is imaginary, but progress is real. Understand this truth. Pressure destroys consistency. When you chase someone else's timeline, you abandon your own rhythm. You end up forcing productivity from fear, not purpose. Fear-based improvement burns bright, then burns out. But growth built in silence, slow, steady, deliberate, becomes part of who you are. It doesn't need maintenance, it becomes instinct. When you stop seeking visible proof of progress, you start feeling it. You notice how you respond differently to stress, how your patience expands, how your habits feel lighter. That's the reward of private work. It recalibrates your center. You begin to move with quiet certainty instead of noisy effort. The truth is, nobody remembers how fast you got there. They remember how strongly you stayed. The ones who trust their pace end up lasting longer, building deeper, and resting easier. They know that real improvement isn't about proving worth. It's about expanding capacity. You're not chasing validation. You're building infrastructure. You're becoming someone capable of holding success, not just reaching it. So slow down to strengthen up. Be patient with your process. Protect your timing from comparison. Improve in silence. Trust your rhythm. And know that every quiet effort counts, even when it doesn't show yet. Because progress you can't see is often the kind that lasts the longest. You don't need to explain where you're going. You just need to keep going. You don't need to announce every level. You just need to master them. The noise fades, the doubt fades, but what's built in patience never fades. Trust your pace. You're not behind. You're building something meant to last. Chapter 7. Stay focused on your path and ignore opinions. You cannot move forward while constantly turning your head. Every time you glance sideways to check who's watching or what they think, you lose momentum. Focus leaks, energy scatters, and the work, the real work that's meant to move you, stops breathing. Everyone has opinions. Few have results. Most people project their own fear onto your ambition. They'll call you unrealistic because they gave up early. They'll call you obsessed because they never stayed consistent. If you allow their words to shape your choices, you'll end up building a life that makes sense to them but feels wrong to you. You have to understand the difference between advice and noise. Advice is earned. It comes from those who have built what you're building. Noise is just commentary, the background hum of people who've never done the work. Don't give their opinions more weight than your own effort. You are the only one who wakes up to your goals. You are the only one who feels the cost of your decisions. You are the one who will live the results. So trust yourself more than their opinions. When you decide to focus, you'll notice resistance. Some will test your commitment. Some will question your silence. Some will joke about your discipline. That's normal. It's easier for them to mock what they don't understand than to mirror it. But every comment you entertain is an opportunity lost. Every reaction you offer is energy spent backward. Focus is a decision, not a mood. You must defend it like territory. There's a principle in strategy. What you focus on expands. What you argue with consumes you. The moment you start debating with doubters, you become one of them. Distracted. Their doubt wins not because it's right, but because it diverted you. Silence, again, becomes your weapon. When you refuse to respond, you starve their influence. When you keep building, you force them to confront your results. Stop trying to convince people of your vision. The ones meant to understand will feel it when they see what you've built. The rest will only believe once it's undeniable, and by then, their opinion won't matter. You don't need to prove that your path is valid. You need to walk it. Let progress be your rebuttal. Let clarity be your confidence. The mind becomes powerful when it's not polluted by every opinion it hears. Your focus is oxygen, and opinions are smoke. You can't breathe clearly if you keep inhaling everyone's judgment. Create distance from voices that cloud your thinking. Limit your input. You don't need 10 perspectives on what only you are responsible for. Learn to stay centered when others misunderstand you. They will. That's part of growth. You'll outgrow people, environments, and expectations that once made sense. Let them. If you keep shrinking yourself to fit their comfort, you'll never expand into your purpose. Growth will always require a season of misunderstanding, but that's the price of clarity. Be loyal to your mission, not the crowd. The crowd changes daily. Your mission doesn't. When opinions clash with your direction, choose direction. When advice feels safer than vision, choose vision. Remember, no one ever built greatness by asking permission first, so stay focused. Protect your attention as if it were currency, because it is. Don't respond to noise. Don't argue your worth. Don't dilute your conviction trying to be understood. You don't need everyone to agree. You only need enough silence to think clearly. Let your results be your response. Let your peace be your proof. Let your focus be your rebellion. Because in a world addicted to distraction, staying locked in on your path is the highest form of power. Chapter 8. Handle your struggles alone and grow from them. No one is coming to rescue you, and that's not something to fear. It's something to respect, because once you realize that, you stop waiting. You stop expecting someone else to fix what's yours to face. You start meeting your pain with discipline instead of drama. Struggle is not a punishment. It's a training ground. Every challenge is an invitation to discover what still needs to be strengthened in you. The problem is, most people run from that invitation. They post about their pain instead of learning from it. They talk about being broken instead of building resilience. They search for sympathy when what they really need is structure. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in confrontation. You have to look your difficulty in the eye and ask, "What are you trying to teach me?" Because every struggle carries a lesson that cannot be learned from comfort. Pain is a signal. It points you directly toward the part of yourself that still needs upgrading. But you can't hear that message if you're too busy seeking applause for surviving. Handling your struggles alone doesn't mean you reject help. It means you stop outsourcing responsibility. There's a difference. Support is a gift, but dependence is a trap. When you rely on people to lift every weight for you, your strength never grows. There are seasons meant for solitude, seasons where you face what scares you, where you fix what's broken, where you carry the load long enough to discover how capable you really are. You'll feel like quitting. You'll have nights where the silence feels heavier than the work. But those are the moments where character forms. When there's no audience to witness your fight, every victory becomes sacred. Every time you keep going without applause, you turn pain into power. The version of you who survives that, stronger, sharper, quieter, is the one you were meant to become. Don't waste energy blaming life for being unfair. Life was never designed to be easy. It was designed to make you evolve. Every struggle is a mirror showing you how you handle pressure. Do you collapse, or do you calibrate? Do you repeat old habits, or do you replace them? The ones who grow are not the ones who suffer less. They're the ones who extract meaning from every ounce of suffering. When you handle difficulty in silence, you gain something rare: self-respect. You begin to trust your ability to face storms without falling apart. You learn to comfort yourself through action, not avoidance. That kind of strength can't be faked. It can't be bought. It's earned in private through the nights you keep showing up when everything in you wants to disappear. The truth is, most people don't need another motivational speech. They need to stop running from discomfort. Every time you hide from a hard thing, you confirm to yourself that you're not strong enough to handle it. But every time you face it, even trembling, you build evidence that you are. That evidence becomes your confidence. There's no shame in solitude. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means incubation. When you go quiet in the face of difficulty, you're creating space to think clearly, to adapt intelligently, to rebuild intentionally. You're giving yourself the room to process, to feel, and to act without the distortion of outside noise. So when life tests you, when it breaks your plans, humbles your ego, shakes your faith in your own pace, do not rush to announce it. Sit with it. Work through it. Learn from it. And let your recovery be as private as your struggle. Because one day, when people see how solid you've become, they'll never guess how many battles you fought alone to get there. You don't need sympathy. You need strategy. You don't need someone to save you. You need to save your own focus. You don't need comfort. You need clarity. So stand tall in your silence. Carry your lessons quietly. Turn your pain into precision. And when you walk back into the world, you won't need to tell them you grew. They'll feel it in your calm. Chapter 9. Let your results show what you've been doing. Words fade. Proof doesn't. You don't need to convince anyone you're working. You just need to keep working until the evidence is undeniable. The loud talkers get attention. The quiet builders get respect. And respect lasts longer than applause. Most people never reach their potential because they waste energy performing progress instead of producing it. They tell everyone about their goals, about what's coming soon, about the empire they're building, but nothing ever arrives. Their words become noise, and their credibility dissolves with it. Every promise without proof is an unpaid debt to your own reputation. The strongest people don't explain their moves. They move. They don't argue about what's possible. They show what's done. They understand that reputation is not built through description, but demonstration. Every hour you execute in silence adds weight to your name. Every private victory deposits credibility into your account. Your results are the only language the world truly listens to. You can talk for a year, or you can show for a month. The month will always speak louder. The truth about success is that it doesn't require marketing. Real success markets itself. When you've done the work, the transformation becomes obvious. Your energy changes. Your posture changes. You walk into a room and don't need to announce anything because your presence says, "I've earned this." Let your results do the talking because they can't be argued with. You can debate opinions, but you can't deny outcomes. Proof silences everything. It ends the need for approval because once you have results, you stop needing validation. You stop explaining what you're about and start embodying it. Here's the paradox. When you stop chasing recognition, it finds you. Because energy follows integrity. People feel when something is real. They might not understand your process, but they respect your progress. They can't see the late nights, the rejection, the repetitions, but they feel the authority that comes from someone who's done the unseen work. This chapter is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. You don't need to shout to be heard when you're aligned with purpose. You don't need to prove that you're serious when your life already demonstrates it. Let your consistency accumulate quietly until it becomes impossible to ignore. You'll notice something. When your results start speaking, the noise stops. The doubters go quiet. The critics shift tone. The same people who once questioned you will pretend they always believed. That's how the game works. So don't waste your breath trying to convert them. Convert your effort into outcomes. Time will handle the rest. Every morning, choose evidence over emotion. Work even when it's unacknowledged. Train when it's inconvenient. Study when you'd rather rest. Those quiet investments compound faster than you think. Because consistency has a way of sneaking up on you. It starts slow. Then suddenly, everyone calls it overnight success. But you'll know it wasn't sudden. It was earned silently for years. Let your routine become your statement. Let your improvement be your announcement. The right people will notice. The ones who value substance over sound. You don't have to tell them what you've been doing. They'll see it in your precision, your peace, your results. And when that moment comes, say nothing. Just keep going. Because the goal isn't to be noticed. It's to become undeniable. Not to be famous for your words, but unforgettable for your work. Keep building, keep refining, keep showing up. Let your results speak. They always tell the truth. Chapter 10. Win big without announcing a single move. The loudest one in the room is rarely the one in control. Real power moves in silence, deliberate, composed, and invisible until it's undeniable. You don't owe the world a preview of your progress. You owe yourself the discipline to build it privately. Winners don't broadcast the climb. They disappear into execution and reappear with results. Because they understand something the average person doesn't. The moment you start talking about your goals, you leak energy. You start looking sideways for reactions instead of forward toward action. And energy divided is progress delayed. Every time you announce what you're going to do, you satisfy a part of your ego that craves recognition before it's earned. It's a false reward. Dopamine dressed as momentum. The brain mistakes attention for achievement. That's why people post their plans, seek early praise, and then lose steam halfway through. They've already cashed the check their work was supposed to earn. Keep your ambition off stage. When no one knows your next move, no one can interfere with it. Your silence is not secrecy, it's strategy. It keeps your focus intact and your confidence pure. The more you speak, the more you expose yourself to noise, opinions, doubt, distraction. Every word you say gives the outside world a handle to pull you off track. Don't hand them the rope. Winning big without announcements means shifting from external validation to internal metrics. You no longer chase attention, you chase execution. You no longer count followers, you count fulfilled promises. You no longer need to tell people where you're going. Your direction becomes visible through your discipline. Real winners are not addicted to validation. They're addicted to precision. They track progress quietly, correct mistakes without announcement, and celebrate milestones privately. They understand that the result is the only message that needs to be delivered, and it will deliver itself when the work is undeniable. This is what maturity looks like in the pursuit of greatness. You stop performing for applause and start producing for alignment. You move from proving to mastering. You no longer care about being seen improving. You care about being unstoppable when it counts. The world won't understand this at first. People will ask where you've been. Let them wonder. While they're talking about what they might do, you'll already be deep in what you've become. There's a reason silent builders seem intimidating. They're unpredictable. You can't compete with someone whose strategy you can't see. Winning quietly also builds humility. You stop needing to make others small to feel big. You no longer measure success by recognition, but by reach. Not how many saw it, but how deeply it changed you. Quiet victories feel different. They're cleaner. There's no performance, no pressure, no pretending. Just the quiet knowing. I did this. You'll start realizing how freeing it is to not explain. You'll move with a different kind of peace, a grounded confidence that doesn't swing with opinions. And when the results finally arrive, they'll speak louder than you ever could. You won't need to clap for yourself. The work will echo in your reputation, your habits, your composure. Winning without announcements also keeps your hunger pure. When no one's watching, there's no performance. When there's no performance, there's no distraction. What remains is clarity. What remains is focus. You'll know you've matured when you no longer crave to be seen starting. You crave to be seen finishing. When your silence stops feeling like isolation and starts feeling like power. When you realize that mystery isn't arrogance, it's efficiency. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you've slowed down. Let them talk. You'll keep building quietly, precisely, relentlessly, until one day your results arrive so loud that even the noise goes silent. That's how you win big without saying a word. Because real success doesn't need to announce itself. It arrives. Chapter 11. Silence as a leadership strategy. The strongest leaders rarely raise their voices. They don't have to. Their presence carries authority because it's anchored in consistency, not noise. You can feel when someone has done the work. Their calm speaks before their mouth does. That's what real leadership sounds like. controlled energy, focused intention, and quiet conviction. Silence, when used with discipline, is not passivity. It's precision. It's knowing when to speak for impact and when to withhold for power. Most people think leadership means being the loudest voice in the room, but true influence often comes from restraint. When you speak only when it matters, your words carry weight. When you observe before responding, your perspective becomes sharper. Silence trains your instinct, and instinct is the highest form of intelligence. Great leaders understand the psychology of noise. They know that constant talking weakens authority because it signals insecurity. The louder someone tries to be, the more they reveal their need for control. But control doesn't come from volume. It comes from clarity. You don't earn respect by speaking first. You earn it by speaking last, after you've truly understood what's unfolding. When you lead in silence, you create space for others to reveal themselves. You let the truth surface. In quiet, you can read people's energy, their motives, their sincerity. You see who listens and who performs. You learn to distinguish confidence from bravado. The noise blinds others, but you, the quiet observer, see everything. Silence also communicates strength. It says, I don't need to prove my value here. I know it. It tells others that your focus is not scattered, that you think before you act, that you trust your own judgment. That trust becomes contagious. People follow those who seem grounded because groundedness feels safe. Noise is unstable. Calmness is magnetic. Every great commander, coach, or CEO you admire mastered the art of pause. The moment before they speak, they measure the room. They assess timing. They understand that influence depends on cadence, not chaos. They don't speak to fill silence. They use silence to fill meaning. That's leadership, control of rhythm, not domination of sound. When you learn to lead quietly, your decisions sharpen. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop needing credit and start craving clarity. You realize that real leadership is not about visibility. It's about vision. You stop managing impressions and start managing outcomes. The next time you're in a room full of noise, notice what silence does. It bends attention. It commands without force. It shifts the dynamic entirely. The one who can remain composed while everyone else scrambles becomes the anchor, the reference point others unconsciously rely on. That's power. Not loud, not theatrical, centered. So practice this. Speak less, listen longer, observe deeper. Before you answer, pause. Before you explain, breathe. Watch how your influence grows without trying. Watch how people start leaning in when you finally choose to speak. That's the paradox. Silence multiplies the power of every word that follows. And remember, leadership doesn't begin when others follow you. It begins when you can lead yourself. The same silence that commands a room also commands your inner chaos. It's what allows you to hear your own thoughts without distortion. Before you can direct others, you must first learn to direct your focus. Let silence become your leadership strategy. Deliberate, grounded, disciplined. Don't rush to fill every gap with words. Let presence do the heavy lifting. Let composure be your language. In the end, authority built from calm will always outlast attention built from noise. Because noise impresses for a moment. Silence influences for a lifetime. Chapter 12. Energy management. Protect what powers your focus. You cannot win if you are drained. You cannot create if your mind is scattered. Discipline is not just about working hard. It's about managing energy wisely. Because energy is your most valuable currency. Every distraction, every unnecessary conversation, every emotional outburst is a withdrawal from the account that funds your potential. Most people think success is about time management. It's not. It's energy management. Two people can have the same 24 hours. One finishes the day clear, the other finishes empty. The difference is not what they did, it's what they allowed in. Focus dies not from exhaustion, but from leakage, from giving your attention to everything that doesn't deserve it. You need to start guarding your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. The quality of your focus determines the quality of your life. If you let noise, gossip, negativity, and pointless scrolling invade your day, you're not just wasting minutes, you're sabotaging momentum. You can't expect clarity while consuming chaos. Everything you consume either fuels your focus or fractures it. Every message you read, every face you engage, every thought you entertain, it's all energy exchange. Ask yourself constantly, is this feeding me or draining me? The mature version of you will begin to say no faster, not out of coldness, but out of wisdom. Protect your mornings like sacred territory. How you start determines how you think. Don't let the world's noise be the first voice you hear. Start with stillness. Move your body. Feed your mind with something that sharpens, not dulls. The first hour of your day is not about productivity, it's about alignment. Set your state before the world sets it for you. Throughout the day, learn the art of conservation. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You don't have to prove your kindness by being accessible to everyone. Protecting your energy doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sustainable. A drained person can't be disciplined. A distracted person can't be decisive. The key is not to do more, it's to leak less. When you remove the unnecessary, what remains becomes powerful. When you stop scattering your energy, your actions start hitting with precision. Every day, you're faced with 3 choices. What will I give my energy to? What will I remove from my energy field? What will I recharge it with? Answer those with intention, and you'll change your life faster than any strategy book could teach you. Recharge in silence. Detach from digital noise. Take time to think without a screen between you and your own thoughts. Solitude is not loneliness. It's the maintenance room for your mind. When you learn to sit still, you learn to reset. When you learn to reset, you learn to sustain progress without burnout. And don't confuse activity with alignment. Many people are busy, but few are effective. They chase movement because it feels like meaning. But movement without direction is chaos disguised as hustle. Energy management is not about doing less. It's about doing what matters most with your full presence. The people who perform at the highest level, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, all share one habit. They protect their focus ruthlessly. They rest when needed. They disconnect strategically. And they return sharper because they respect the source that fuels their greatness. So take inventory of your inputs. Audit your energy daily. Who leaves you tired? What habits drain you? What thoughts make you weaker? Cut them, refine them, replace them. Protect your power like a fortress. Because your energy is not infinite, but your discipline in guarding it can be. And when your focus stays clean, your goals become inevitable. Silence protects energy. Boundaries preserve power. Guard both, and nothing can touch your pace. Chapter 13. The Discipline of Consistency. Consistency is the bridge between intention and transformation. It's not the fire that starts the journey. It's the quiet engine that keeps it alive long after excitement dies. Anyone can start strong. Few have the discipline to stay steady. The difference between potential and proof is consistency. Discipline is not punishment. It's precision. It's the art of aligning your actions with your intentions, even when your feelings protest. Feelings fluctuate. Standards don't. The person who learns to act beyond mood becomes unstoppable. Because while the world waits for motivation, the disciplined build momentum. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means repetition. It's the act of showing up, regardless of applause or emotion, knowing that progress hides in the dull and the daily. The small, simple things you do repeatedly, waking early, training your body, reading, planning, refining. They don't look heroic, but they are. They're the bricks of greatness laid one by one until the structure becomes undeniable. The average mind romanticizes discipline, but resists its monotony. The disciplined mind reverses it. They fall in love with the pattern. They understand that consistency is not supposed to feel exciting. It's supposed to feel familiar. Familiarity is stability, and stability is what success stands on. There's a science to this. Your brain loves patterns. Every time you repeat an action, you're rewiring neural pathways telling your mind, this is who we are now. Eventually, it stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. That's when discipline transforms from something you do into something you are. But consistency requires one critical skill: emotional regulation. You can't be consistent if you're constantly reacting. You can't show up every day if every setback shakes your foundation. Emotional control doesn't mean suppressing feelings. It means mastering your response to them. The disciplined person feels everything but obeys nothing except purpose. Understand, inconsistency doesn't come from laziness. It comes from mismanaged emotion. You get distracted because you chase comfort after discomfort. You quit because you misinterpret boredom as failure. You skip the work because you're addicted to the illusion of progress that only novelty gives. Discipline is the cure. It forces you to build strength where your emotions want relief. Every time you show up without feeling like it, you win twice. Once externally through action, and once internally through mastery. Those quiet wins compound. They make you reliable to yourself, and that self-reliability is confidence in its purest form. Don't wait for perfect timing. Don't wait for inspiration. Neither of them are coming often enough to depend on. Build rituals that carry you through inconsistency. Systems protect progress. Create a plan so clear that it removes negotiation. The disciplined don't wake up and decide what to do. They already decided yesterday. And when you fail, as everyone does, don't restart. Resume. Failure only breaks momentum when you treat it like an ending. The consistent treat failure like a rep, one imperfect repetition in a lifetime of training. The faster you resume, the stronger your identity becomes. There will always be people chasing hacks, shortcuts, and trends. Let them. You'll be busy mastering the only principle that never expires: steady effort. Because consistency compounds, not just in skill, but in character. Each day of discipline deposits confidence. Each week of follow-through builds reputation. Each month of persistence creates momentum. One day, others will call you lucky. Let them. They won't see the mornings you didn't want to wake, the hours you worked in silence, the days you wanted to quit but didn't. They'll only see the visible result of invisible repetition. So make consistency your strategy, not your struggle. Treat each day as a vote for who you want to become. The disciplined may not move fast, but they never move backward. And that's why, eventually, they win everything. Chapter 14. The Power of Internal Metrics. You will never find peace measuring your progress by someone else's scoreboard. The moment you tie your worth to comparison, you surrender control of your confidence. External validation is a fragile currency. It inflates fast and crashes faster. But internal metrics, self-defined and self-measured, never lose value. Success built on outside approval is a performance. Success built on internal alignment is freedom. The more you rely on external metrics, followers, applause, numbers, noise, the more volatile your identity becomes. You rise when praised and fall when ignored. That's not success. That's dependency dressed as ambition. The ones who last the longest in any field have one thing in common. They measure differently. They don't count likes. They count promises kept. They don't track attention. They track alignment. They don't care how many people notice. They care how often they've improved. That's the mindset of mastery. Progress defined privately. When you build your own internal scoreboard, you start playing a different game. You stop chasing outcomes you can't control and start managing inputs you can. You stop asking, "Did I win today?" and start asking, "Did I honor my standard today?" That subtle shift is where confidence is born. Not from achievements, but from integrity. Your internal metrics should be built on things that strengthen you from within. Hours spent in deep focus, consistency in your routine, honesty in your reflection, effort in your craft, control over your reactions, alignment between words and actions. These are the statistics that actually predict greatness, the invisible data of character. When you measure yourself by internal standards, you become unshakable. You're no longer addicted to reassurance because you know the truth of your work. You no longer compete with others because you're too invested in outperforming your yesterday. The game becomes personal, and that's when growth accelerates. The world is loud, and it will always try to hand you its scoreboard. It will tell you your progress only counts if it's seen, shared, or celebrated. But if you live that way, you'll always chase and never arrive. True progress doesn't demand an audience. It demands awareness. Build a private ritual of reflection. End your days by asking, "Did I act with clarity today? Did I do what I said I'd do? Did I protect my energy and my focus?" That quiet check-in is more powerful than any applause because it's honest. The world can celebrate your highlight reel, but only you know if you've lived in integrity. The purpose of internal measurement is not to be perfect. It's to be precise. You can't manage what you don't monitor. When you track your behavior instead of your feelings, you stay grounded. Feelings lie. Data doesn't. Even emotional data, noticing when your mind wandered, when discipline slipped, becomes feedback for growth. This is how you turn silence into a system. When you live by internal metrics, your progress becomes self-sustaining. You stop waiting for praise to validate the grind. You stop seeking momentum from the crowd. You build it from the inside out. And the irony? When you no longer need recognition, the results start attracting it anyway. Because the energy of someone fully aligned, calm, consistent, grounded, is magnetic. People can feel when someone is built from within. So stop counting what doesn't count. Measure what matters. Forget who's watching. And remember, the most powerful scoreboard in the world is the one only you can see. Chapter 15. Becoming the person who doesn't need to announce success. You reach the highest level of growth when you no longer feel the need to explain it. When you can look at your life and know you've changed, not because someone told you, not because it's visible online, but because your habits, your thoughts, and your peace prove it. That's real evolution, when your results whisper louder than your words ever could. Becoming the person who doesn't need to announce success means your identity is no longer built on validation. You've outgrown the phase where achievement was a costume to wear. You don't need to tell people who you are. Your presence already communicates it. You move differently because you've earned your calm. You act differently because you've built your clarity. There's a kind of quiet strength that comes from those who've walked through enough storms to no longer chase lightning. You've been humbled, tested, rebuilt. You've seen what noise costs and what silence delivers. You've stopped needing the world to see your growth because you've felt it within you. The audience no longer matters when you've become the evidence. This level of mastery has nothing to do with pride. It's about balance. It's not arrogance to remain silent. It's wisdom. Because you now understand that people don't hear with curiosity. They hear with projection. When you share your vision too soon, they will filter it through their own fears. Their doubts will echo louder than your belief if you let them in too early. So you stop sharing, not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting. You protect your peace like a sacred resource. You protect your work until it's ready to stand on its own. You protect your growth because you remember how fragile it was when it first began. There's nothing mysterious about silence. It's maintenance. It's maturity. You no longer need noise to prove existence. You simply live your truth every day without performance. When you reach this point, success stops feeling like a race. It starts feeling like alignment. You no longer rush results or chase timelines. You build with patience. You refine with care. You give up the chase for more and focus on mastery, of self, of craft, of energy. The quiet achievers are always the most dangerous, not because they hide, but because they don't waste power proving. Every ounce of energy goes into precision, not presentation. And here's what happens when you stop announcing. You start evolving faster. Because every time you speak of progress, your mind mistakes it for completion. But when you stay quiet, your focus stays sharp. You live in the doing instead of the telling. The process becomes your reward, and the reward becomes inevitable. You'll also realize that peace becomes the new proof. When you no longer need to convince, argue, or compare, that's success. When you can enjoy the stillness you once feared, that's mastery. When your days are simple, your actions are deliberate, and your energy stays steady, that's the real win. Becoming the person who doesn't need to announce success is about detaching from outcome and attaching to identity. You no longer ask, "When will I win?" You ask, "Who am I becoming while I work?" And once that identity is solid, results become a side effect. So as you grow, say less. As you rise, post less. As you transform, protect more. Let the silence build your credibility. Let consistency write your story. And one day, when they finally notice and ask, "How did you do it?" you'll smile, not out of pride, but out of understanding. Because you'll know that while everyone else was talking, you were building. Quietly, relentlessly, permanently. That's how you win. Not loudly, not quickly, but silently and forever. Chapter 16. Systems over goals. Build the machine that builds you. Most people chase goals like fireworks, loud, bright, and short-lived. But goals by themselves are fragile. They rely on emotion, and emotion is a storm that changes direction every hour. Systems, on the other hand, are structure, quiet, repetitive, and unstoppable. A system is what remains when motivation leaves. It's the invisible engine that keeps you moving when no one's clapping and nothing feels exciting. Goals are destinations. Systems are directions. The problem is that most people fall in love with destinations and ignore directions. They write down visions, quotes, deadlines, but never build the mechanism that gets them there. The system is not glamorous, but it's what turns dreamers into builders. Every system starts with this question: what actions can I repeat even when I don't feel like it? Because discipline is not about effort, it's about removing friction. If every decision depends on how you feel, you will lose the war of consistency. Systems eliminate that weakness. They transform discipline into design. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. If your system is chaos, your results will mirror it. If your system is deliberate, your success becomes automatic. Think of your system as a silent partnership between your present and future self. The present self loves comfort. The future self loves progress. The system protects the future self by making good choices non-negotiable. It removes willpower from the equation. It doesn't ask, "Do I feel like it?" It says, "It's what I do." Design your system around controllable inputs, not unpredictable outcomes. You can't control how fast success arrives, but you can control how consistently you show up. Count your efforts, not your applause. Track your repetitions, not reactions. The process becomes the prize. And when the process becomes the prize, you become impossible to stop. The architecture of a powerful system follows 4 laws. Simplify ruthlessly. Complexity kills execution. Reduce your rituals to the few that move the needle. Automate decision points. The fewer choices you face, the less resistance you feel. Pre-plan meals, training hours, work windows, design visible cues. Your environment should whisper your priorities. Place tools where you need them. Hide distractions where they can't tempt you. Track integrity, not perfection. Systems thrive on adjustment, not guilt. Missed a day? Resume. The system isn't broken. The streak continues tomorrow. A system is alive. It breathes through repetition and adapts through reflection. Each month, step back and audit it. What's producing results? What's creating drag? Improve the machine instead of attacking yourself. Winners fix the structure. Amateurs fixate on emotion. The beauty of systems is that they create momentum without motivation. When structure carries you, you don't need to force effort. It flows naturally. Over time, your habits begin to operate like gears in motion. You'll wake, move, and execute automatically. What was once effort becomes identity. And when your system becomes your identity, you no longer chase discipline. You embody it. You no longer wish for progress. You expect it. That's what separates high performers from hopeful ones. Not bigger goals, but better designs. Remember, the person who builds a reliable system will always outperform the person chasing inspirational moments. The former builds consistency. The latter collects disappointment. So stop rewriting goals every month and start refining the process that makes them inevitable. Build the machine that builds you. Feed it with structure. Fuel it with patience. Protect it with consistency. Because when your system is strong, success stops being a question of if, it becomes a question of when. Chapter 17. Environment is destiny. Architect your habits with space and time. You are not just shaped by your goals, you are sculpted by your surroundings. Your environment either sharpens your discipline or dulls it. It either pulls you forward or quietly holds you back. Most people don't fail because they lack motivation. They fail because their environment makes success harder than it needs to be. Human behavior is a reflection of context. We act according to cues, not intentions. That's why the same person who reads every morning at home suddenly can't focus at a cafe. Or why one cluttered desk produces procrastination while another sparks deep work. Your environment whispers commands to your subconscious, and you obey them without realizing it. If you want to change your life, you don't start with your mind. You start with your surroundings. You design your space to reinforce your standards. You build architecture that protects your focus, automates your discipline, and removes the constant friction of decision. Ask yourself, does my environment reward my goals or my impulses? Every object around you has a voice. The phone beside your bed says, scroll. The journal on your nightstand says, reflect. The snacks on your counter say, give in. The clean workspace says, create. Success begins when you stop negotiating with temptation and start redesigning proximity. Willpower is a muscle. Design is armor. You can't rely on willpower forever, but you can live inside a structure that makes doing the right thing automatic. Start small. If you want to read more, put your book where your phone usually sits. If you want to move more, place your shoes near the door, not in the closet. If you want to focus deeply, turn your desk toward the wall, not the window of distractions. If you want to think clearly, declutter, because clutter is unmade decisions piled up. And beyond physical space, audit your time environment. The hours of your day are rooms you walk through. Who do you allow in each? Mornings should belong to creation, not consumption. Afternoons to movement, not meetings. Evenings to reflection, not regret. Time, like space, must be curated with intent. Don't let everyone walk through your schedule. Guard your hours like property, because they are. Then, look at your social environment. People are the climate you live in. Some nourish, some deplete. You can't grow in a field of weeds. Protect your circle as carefully as you protect your focus. Sit near those who normalize ambition. Distance yourself from those who glorify excuses, because proximity rewires identity. The energy of your circle sets the ceiling for your consistency. You become fluent in the language you hear daily. If that language is complaint, you'll speak limitation. If it's growth, you'll speak resilience. Lastly, create a ritual environment, the sights, sounds, and scents that trigger the state you need. Light a specific candle before deep work. Play one playlist when training. Use a single notebook for your reflections. Your mind will start associating these cues with excellence. Over time, simply entering that sensory pattern will signal, now we perform. You're not lazy, your surroundings are unaligned. You don't lack focus. Your environment is cluttered with competing signals. The disciplined life isn't about working harder than everyone else. It's about designing smarter than everyone else. Imagine walking into a space where every object, every schedule block, every person is calibrated toward your purpose, where distraction feels foreign and clarity feels natural. That is not fantasy, it's architecture. You build discipline once through willpower and forever through design. Rearrange your surroundings until success becomes the default behavior. Because in the end, you don't rise above your environment. You rise to meet it. Chapter 18. Emotional Stoicism. Hold your line under pressure. The strongest people in the world are not those who never feel. They are those who feel everything but remain unmoved in what matters. Emotional stoicism is not coldness, it's containment. It's the ability to hold your line while others crumble under the weight of reaction. Every goal you chase will test your emotional endurance. Discipline demands discomfort. Progress demands patience. You cannot sustain either if every setback shakes you. The higher you climb, the heavier the wind. And if you're not anchored, even small storms will break you. Modern culture glorifies expression but forgets regulation. Everyone is told to feel everything, yet few are taught how to handle what they feel. Emotions are like fire. Controlled, they give warmth and light. Uncontrolled, they burn everything in their path. Stoicism is learning to become the fire's master. When frustration arrives, and it will, pause. Before reacting, breathe slowly and deeply. Count the breath. Feel the space between stimulus and response. That moment is your sovereignty. The world loses its grip on you there. You become a strategist instead of a reactor. Emotion whispers lies in urgency. It tells you everything must be said now, decided now, changed now. But wisdom lives in delay. When you pause, you interrupt the emotional algorithm. You stop operating on old programming and give logic a chance to speak. The Stoic doesn't repress emotion, they reassign it. Anger becomes clarity. Fear becomes alertness. Sadness becomes depth. Every feeling is data, information about what matters. The emotionally weak drown in the data. The emotionally mature extract signal from it. You can practice this daily. When criticism hits, ask, is this true or is this projection? When you fail, ask, what system failed, not what's wrong with me? When you feel envy, ask, what desire is this exposing that I've neglected to pursue? Each reframing turns emotional turbulence into insight. You become unbreakable because you turn every blow into a lesson. Stoicism is not pretending you don't hurt. It's remembering that pain is not permission to lose composure. Life will test you through loss, delay, rejection, betrayal. Those are inevitable. What's optional is your surrender to them. Hold your posture when it shakes. Keep your tone even when your heart races. Speak calmly even when your ego screams. Your restraint will confuse others, and that's fine. Most people only know how to perform emotions. They don't know how to process them. And here's the paradox. When you control yourself, you gain control over almost everything else, because energy obeys the most stable presence in the room. The calm person leads without asking to. The grounded person influences without speaking. To hold your line, you must build 3 anchors. Physical anchor, move your body daily. Strength training, walking, deep breathing. Movement dissolves emotion trapped in the body. Mental anchor, write. Reflection empties chaos into clarity. Journaling is emotional engineering. Philosophical anchor, define what truly matters. If you don't know your principles, everything will feel personal. When values are clear, reactions lose power. You can't control the world, but you can control what it turns you into. That's the quiet triumph of Stoicism. Nothing can defeat you without your consent. The situation may hurt, but your interpretation determines whether it weakens or sharpens you. So when the next storm comes, and it always will, don't aim to avoid it. Stand in it. Let it shape your posture. Let it carve new depth into your patience. Let it teach you calm under chaos, because storms don't destroy those who understand wind. they refine them. Be the calmest presence in every room. Be the one whose eyes stay steady when everything else shakes. That's not emotionless. That's emotionally evolved. Hold your line. The world respects what it can't rattle. Chapter 19. The Long Game: Compounding, Patience, and Inevitability. The world worships speed. It glorifies instant results, overnight success, and the illusion of shortcuts. But the truth is timeless. Anything built fast rarely lasts. Growth that endures is growth that compounds, quietly, invisibly, and relentlessly over time. The long game isn't glamorous, but it's undefeated. When you commit to the long game, you stop chasing applause and start collecting mastery. You stop asking, "How fast can I get there?" and start asking, "How long can I stay consistent?" Because consistency outlasts talent. Repetition outperforms intensity. Patience defeats panic. Every great builder understands the law of compounding. The small done daily becomes the monumental done effortlessly. 1 hour of focus today seems small, but multiplied over years, it becomes the foundation of empires. The human brain, however, is wired for immediacy. It wants visible reward, fast validation, instant evidence. The long game teaches you to trade dopamine for discipline. It's a different kind of wealth, one measured in endurance, not excitement. Think of progress as interest on effort. You deposit daily focus, and over time, it accumulates. Miss a day? The interest pauses. Stay consistent? The interest compounds exponentially. And one day, what seemed invisible becomes undeniable. The long game demands 3 things: patience, perspective, and persistence. Patience means understanding that slow is not the same as stuck. The universe pays in proportion to your endurance. Fast results are fun, but slow results are faithful. You can fake effort for a week. You can't fake showing up for a decade. Perspective means seeing beyond the immediate. When others panic after one failure, you adjust your plan. When they quit after a bad month, you zoom out to the year. When they envy results, you study the process that produced them. The long-term thinker wins not because they're smarter, but because they're still in the game after everyone else is tired. Persistence is what makes time your ally. It's not intensity that changes your life. It's consistency without expiration. The long game rewards the one who refuses to stop planting, even when nothing has sprouted yet. Understand this: nothing meaningful happens linearly. Growth looks like nothing for months, and then everything all at once. That's how compounding works: invisible, 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 and then unstoppable. The results don't appear suddenly. They reveal what's been accumulating quietly. So build for decades, not dopamine. Don't chase outcomes you can't control. Refine the inputs you can repeat. Every hour of disciplined effort, every note taken, every workout finished, every book read, it all adds up. Not because each act is monumental, but because repetition makes them inevitable. When you think long-term, you stop comparing. Comparison is the addiction of the impatient. You realize everyone has their own timeline, their own season of visibility. Your job is to stay planted long enough to reach harvest. The seed doesn't envy the tree. It just keeps growing underground. The long game also teaches emotional neutrality. You stop celebrating too high when things go well, and you don't crumble too low when they don't. You start to trust momentum instead of mood, because what's built through consistency doesn't need emotion to sustain it. It runs on rhythm. If you want to become unstoppable, learn to love repetition. It's not glamorous, but it's sacred. The repetition is where mastery hides, where identity is forged, where strength becomes second nature. And one day, years later, when others call you lucky, you'll know the truth. Luck is just long-term patience meeting long-term preparation. So stop sprinting. Start building. Don't chase intensity. Chase inevitability. Keep stacking quiet days until the noise fades and only your results remain. Because when time becomes your teammate, you stop hoping to win and start becoming someone who can't lose. Chapter 20. Legacy and Silence. Maintain what you built when no one looks. Reaching success is difficult. Maintaining it, that's mastery. Most people fight their way up a mountain only to fall back down, not because the climb was too hard, but because the view distracted them. The truth is simple but brutal. Success makes people soft. Once you stop being hungry, you start decaying. The difference between those who flash and those who last is discipline after achievement. Legacy isn't built at the peak. It's built in the quiet after applause. It's in the choices you make when nobody's measuring anymore, when you could coast, but you don't. The habits that got you here will not keep you here if you abandon them. What was once survival must now become stewardship. You must protect what you've earned without performing for anyone else. The temptation after success is to celebrate endlessly, to start talking instead of refining, to replace work with comfort. But real power is continuity. True greatness is the ability to operate with the same hunger when comfort surrounds you. Every empire that collapsed did so from internal corrosion, not external threat. Complacency, not competition, is the real enemy of legacy. To preserve what you've built, you must transition from ambition to architecture. Ambition creates momentum. Architecture sustains it. Ask yourself, what systems, values, and disciplines will keep this alive without me forcing it every day? Build structures that outlive excitement. Automate your focus. Institutionalize your wins. Review and reinforce. Every success has a structure behind it. Write it down. Document what worked, not as nostalgia, but as operating code. Systems forget faster than people. Protect your patterns before they erode. Audit and adjust. Growth becomes stagnation when you stop auditing. Schedule time to review yourself, your business, your health, your energy. Ask where drift has entered. Where have I relaxed my standards? Where has ego replaced awareness? Catch decay early, and maintenance becomes evolution. Renew and relearn. The person you were when you succeeded is not the one who will sustain success. Upgrade your mind. Keep studying. Keep humbling yourself to feedback. Stay curious. Growth is oxygen. When you stop inhaling it, everything suffocates slowly. Legacy is not measured by how high you climb, but by how long your work keeps climbing after you. It's what happens when you've built something that can stand without applause. Legacy means creating systems that others can inherit, values that others can emulate, and results that inspire long after you're silent. But never confuse legacy with image. Image fades the moment people stop watching. Legacy grows when they start imitating. The quiet leader builds institutions of principle, not monuments to ego. They focus on process, not performance. And remember, silence is still your ally. Noise invites envy, critique, and distraction. When you reach the top, your silence becomes armor. The fewer people who know your plans, the harder it is for anyone to disrupt them. Protect your peace the way you once protected your progress. The longer you stay consistent, the more dangerous you become. Not dangerous in violence, but in certainty. When your name equals reliability, people trust your word without needing proof. When your actions align with your principles year after year, you no longer influence through charisma. You influence through credibility. That is legacy. So guard it. Guard it from comfort, from ego, from noise. Keep building in private, refining in solitude, leading without spectacle. Because the work that endures is the work that doesn't depend on being seen. Legacy is what remains after the noise stops. It's the quiet force that moves through generations of people who never met you, but lived differently because of what you left behind. It's when your discipline outlives your breath. Let that be your aim. Not just to win, but to last. Not just to achieve, but to anchor. Not just to rise, but to remain. And when the world looks back, it won't remember the noise. It will remember the structure, the steady rhythm of a life that refused to fade after applause. The silent architect who built something permanent while others were still performing. Be that person. Be the calm after the storm, the builder after the victory, the silent proof that success sustained is success mastered. Because in the end, greatness isn't what you reach. It's what remains when you're gone, still standing, still strong, still speaking through the silence. If you've come this far, you already understand something most never will. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of power. It's what separates the ones who perform life from the ones who build it. Every chapter you've just walked through, from focus, discipline, and emotional control to legacy, points to one truth. Mastery lives in the unseen. Noise is easy. It's reactive, addictive, and shallow. It feeds the ego but starves the soul. Silence, on the other hand, is earned. It requires restraint when you could respond, composure when you could complain, execution when you could explain. Silence is the decision to protect your momentum from exposure. It's what lets you work in darkness until your results demand the light. You were never meant to announce your becoming. You were meant to embody it. Let your craft become the language. Let your energy become the message. Let your life itself become the loudest thing about you. Because silence doesn't mean hiding. It means holding. Holding the power you've gathered until it's ready to move the world. The loud may trend. The quiet transform. One day, the same people who overlooked you will ask how you did it. You won't need to answer. They'll see it in your posture, your pace, your peace. You will have become what this entire book was preparing you for. A person whose strength doesn't shout, whose progress doesn't post, whose purpose doesn't pause. So go. Disappear into your discipline. Let the noise chase relevance while you build permanence. And when you finally rise, rise quietly. So quietly that the world mistakes your arrival for inevitability. Because the loud make impressions. The silent make history.